We flipped the finger to the King of England. Stole our country from the Indians. With all of our tribes and guns in our hands, looking for our own. Build a nation dedicated to liberty, justice and equality. It doesn't look that way to you, it doesn't look that way to me. Biggest joke I know. Listen up and I'll tell you who I am. Just another stupid American.
Hello and welcome to Congress of the Working Class. I'm Mike. I'm here with Johnny and Esworthy. Hello, guys.
Boy.
What's up?
This week, let's see. Talk about pastries.
I love pastries.
We'll be like the NPR station. We'll talk about pastries.
Okay, I have sweaty balls.
Wow.
So a kid in, what state was it in?
Maryland.
Was it Maryland with the pastry?
Yes.
That looks like a gun. Maryland.
I think it was Maryland.
Maryland looks like a gun. Suspended a kid for making a pastry in the shape of a gun. And the kid wound up getting suspended, correct? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, as far as I understood it, yeah.
The boy got suspended for.
Okay, I'm pulling the story up now, but continue.
Then another child got in trouble. I'm going to say got in trouble for the moment for having cupcakes with army men on them.
I think they ought to ban pictures of Maryland and Vermont and Idaho, because they look just as much as like guns. Maryland looked more like a gun than that fucking pastry did. I'm just tired of fucking having rights taken away to cater to the fear of the minority.
Well, it's not even that fact. It's the fact that common sense dictates that if a child, kids used to run around all the time playing cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians with fake guns, shooting at each other all the time.
Sometimes not even fake guns.
Well,
We use BB guns.
for the sake of the argument, little plastic toy guns.
All right.
I mean, now you can't even shape a pastry into the shape of one.
You can't even point your finger like one.
Right. It's nonsense. Now, do we know if he got suspended or not as well?
I think the cupcakes got confiscated. I don't think he actually got suspended.
And that was in Detroit.
Yeah.
How that happened.
Another liberal bastion.
Yes, because we support the military unless, they're on a cupcake and then, it's violence.
Yeah.
Unless you actually think about what the military does, then it's scary.
Well, I'm just so happy that it was just a cupcake. It was a miracle nobody got hurt. Because we all know that cupcakes are like killers.
They are. They contribute to weight gain and teeth and
then you have the assault cupcakes, with all the icing on them.
You mean cakes?
Yeah, they're the assault cupcakes. Sometimes they have 3 or 4 layers. Nobody needs 3 or 4 layers.
That's right. It's entirely too much.
There really needs to be a restriction on the level of layers that you can have for the children. Well, what kind of that fits into a certain paradigm of manipulating the masses through indoctrination of the children. That's what that is. I mean, it might not be codified, but it's definitely happening. It's obvious that it's happening. It's blatant that it's happening, but nobody really gives a shit, except for the victims of this administrative bureaucratic bullshit.
Well, it's like the cartoon I put up. It's pretty much Uncle Sam shows up with a present.
Yeah, I saw that.
What would you like to wrap it in? Anti-terrorism or protect the kids?
Yeah, it's U.S. government control of internet speech.
Right. Yeah, but it works for everything. It's like, okay, well, what do you want to wrap up, this into?
Yeah. No.
What's the message that'll resonate with the masses?
Well, yeah. How hard can we throw that political football?
Right, exactly. It's a little ridiculous. It's not a little ridiculous. It's a lot fucking ridiculous. But it goes back to a million of the other things I've talked about, which is, you have to, there has to be self-responsibility. There has to be anger management. There has to be all these things that society would rather point at a symptom of a problem as opposed to the problem.
I don't think that compulsory anger management classes is a good idea, though.
I don't think so either. I think it's. I don't think anything compulsory is necessary.
That's all that's being put out now is compulsory. You know.
Right. Exactly. Instead of society going, hey, you know what? Maybe we should back off our bullshit a little bit, and that should be like just a general sense of the American people. You know, is just back off this bullshit a little bit, and instead they like seem to push hard. Like it's, you know, if one side decides to give a little bit and say, okay, you know what, we're taking it too far, let's back the fuck off. The other side then ramps it up and runs face first into them.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's debate, and you know, everything's become irrelevant in the discussion. There is no discussion anymore. It's a posting of alternating viewpoints. You know, there's no. The other side doesn't listen. They don't listen to each other. They just keep talking about what they want to talk about.
Right.
You know, and they have to be different. They have to be different from the other guy. That's like the deciding factor of any decision. You know, and that is not how you solve things. That's how you do the opposite of solving things. You know?
Right. Which is what gets me, because they're like, oh, we're trying to solve these problems. We're trying to solve these problems. But yet there's gridlock in the Congress. And so, hey, how are you trying to solve problems if neither one of you...
Yeah.
You know?
You know, they've already blatantly ignored the Constitution in one blatant respect. And it's one of their specific constitutional duties, which is to pass a fucking budget every year.
Right.
And they have singularly failed to do so on both sides.
Right.
You know, it's not just one side to blame here; it's both sides. You know, people say, "Oh, well, that's all Obama." It's like, no, it's not. I mean, Obama presents a budget, and then the Congress approves or disapproves or edits that budget.
Well, that's the problem with the entire political discussion right there. Is that it's one side or the other's fault.
Well, it's not.
You know?
It's them as a group, a functional group.
Right.
They are a functional entity. They must work together, but they choose not to.
Right.
And we're the ones that get fucked. And that's why, oh yeah, it's the Republicans' fault for this sequester. No, it's the Democrats. No, it's both of you. You can't get your shit together and fucking do like everybody else does and try to get along with people around them. You just want to bully everybody, you know, on every side. It's just bullshit. It's non-functional, and really, that's an action that they should no longer be in office. You know, across the board.
Well, I wish we had Johnny's a vote of no confidence and term limits.
Well, unfortunately, we have to vote with bullets, and they're trying to get rid of those.
Yeah. I saw a thing earlier that said, if voting made a difference, they'd make it illegal.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
It's just not working anymore. I mean, you pretty much go through the election cycle. You listen to the same tired bullshit from both sides. Most of the time, the incumbent wins over and over and over again to stay in the office for years unless there's a redistricting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
and it's just, you know, what flavor bullshit will you like, ketchup or mustard?
Exactly.
You know, that's the problem with pure democracy, which is what we've moved to. Is that there's no consent, that the consensus is too up for grabs. You know, there's no structure, which is what we have now. It's sad, but it's true. I mean, democracy has been tried in the past, and every time it's been tried, it's failed. So, hence, we don't live supposedly in a democratic society. You know, we have democratic principles, but it's not decisions made by the majority. That's not what it is.
I love the quote they have from one of the I think it's the principal. She says, for the cupcake thing, she added that some parents prohibit all guns as toys and no disrespect was intended for members of the military. However, our commitment is always to our children and creating a safe place for them to learn, grow, and have respectful dialogues about their differences.
Yes, respectful dialogue means confiscation of anything that doesn't fall under the
Let's not talk about what happened. Let's just take their shit.
Yeah, that's communism.
And then I think one of the parents said he's a little 9-year-old kid, and it was his birthday cupcakes. These guys, the soldiers, are heroes, and too many people are confusing them with psychopaths.
Mm-hmm. Well, according to Dianne Feinstein, all soldiers have PSTD and shouldn't be permitted any kind of firearm because they could possibly, they'd be dangerous.
Oh, well, speaking of that, did you hear about the hunting guy that got shot out in, I think it was like Montana or something like that?
Yes, yet another person who advocates the use of firearms has been assassinated through hook or crook.
So what's your theory about that?
Oh no, there's a lot of ways that you can manipulate somebody without their knowledge. Supposedly, this was over an angry wife or
Angry husband
or something. Yeah, that he allegedly had an affair. Well,
And how did he die?
the guy shot him, and then he shot himself. Which is convenient that there's no witnesses to the crime. As far as the people involved, there's nobody to prosecute. It just happened. It's over. Non-event. Just like every other person who's been killed lately like that.
Yeah, I hate when gun advocates get shot with guns. It's really...
Well, that's like the third one in the last...
More than 3. It's like 7 of them, I think.
Well, I'm only familiar with 3 because it was the sniper down in Texas. That guy, the guy out in Montana now, and then the guy that was he owned a gun shop down in Tennessee or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, those are the only 3 I'm aware of.
Right.
But they were strong gun advocates, which is kind of strange. I don't know, statistically speaking, that it makes more sense that they died by gun, being that they are an advocate of guns.
I think that it's the media's reporting it like, oh yeah, see, this is what happens when you touch the evil and devil and Satan incarnate. That is a firearm.
Well, because it is a kind of little bit like that.
But it's not true.
I know, but the thing is that...
No, it's what happens when the person that wants to kill you has a gun.
Right.
Right?
It has nothing to do with you having the gun. You can be a gun advocate all you want, but when other people get guns and shoot you with them, it's kind of what happens when they have hold of guns.
Well, isn't the point that they always advocate, though, is that they can be safer with their guns, and yet they've wound up dead?
Yeah, well...
I think that's a bit of irony, but...
Well, the ironic one was the guy at a gun range with a gun, had a gun in his hand and got killed.
Yeah, but I think he got shot in the back of the head while he was shooting at targets.
I know.
So...
But it still goes,
Yeah.
It's just magic that you're going to be better off with a gun in your hand.
Well, even cops get killed, Even soldiers get killed.
I know.
I'm not arguing that point. It is kind of just funny. That's
well, but for me...
Not funny at all. It's people
argument,
died.
every time I hear the argument, guns make you safer, and then that happens, you just made my point for me, Swarthy, which was pretty much police officers have guns and they die, military people have guns and they die. The guns don't really make you safer.
They don't report on the times where, well, yes, family is saved by, person with gun. Because that's contrary.
Yes, they do. That's why Fox News exists.
It's contrary to their agenda of getting rid of guns.
I don't think guns need to be gotten rid of, but I don't also think they need to be pumped down everybody's throat. It's just it's getting to be just like a religious aspect on both sides with this scenario.
Well,
because you have the whole...
It's inserted.
Go, oh, you can't even make a pastry of the ship with a gun. We can't have toy soldiers with guns.
Yes, you don't find that disturbing?
Then I do find that disturbing. And that's my point, though, is that you have these zealots on both sides that are getting to the point of religion with it. Where, like the people on the right are like, oh, I'm going to go to a town in Texas and I'm going to give everybody a shotgun. It's just... To me, it's just...
Yeah, isn't that a study that somebody's doing? They're giving everybody in town a shotgun and...
Yeah, because they're trying to see if crime will go down.
Right.
And I'm like, when you do know that a town is populated with guns, of course people are going to hesitate breaking into a house because they know everybody in the town has guns.
Well, then it works.
Because statistically, when you have a gun in the home, you are more times likely to shoot yourself or a loved one. More so than an intruder. So, I mean, to me, you're making homes...
Well, okay, but that, on the other side, that's kind of a false statistic, because that, of course you're going to... That's like saying, well, you get in more accidents in your car when you're within a mile of home. Well, of course you are, because you go home every day. You're more likely to have other people in your house that you know.
Right.
So, of course you're more likely... If there's 100 shootings, you know... Only once you're going to have an intruder in your house, and not everybody's even going to have an intruder in their house.
I think
that's kind of a fake statistic.
Yeah, but that goes against the arguments that the right makes every time. These statements that you guys are making are arguing against every argument they make. You know, I mean, and that's what my problem is with the whole scenario.
But that's also a politicized statistic, though.
You know, the fact of the matter is that I have never owned a gun in my entire life. I've had my house broken into one time in my 30-some years of...
Because you didn't own a gun? It was broken into only once?
No, I'm just saying that statistically it's barely going to happen. And on top of that, the person who broke into my house was fucking somebody I knew.
Right?
Right, but you also live in a rural area.
No, I lived in Baltimore for 75% of my life.
Yeah, but you live in the white part now. I'm just kidding.
It was Dundalk.
No. As I lived in the east side of Baltimore City for a period of time. I then lived in Essex. I then moved...
Which is Dundalk Light. And, yeah, then Essex.
And then I moved to Chase.
I don't know where that is.
And Chase is out by, like, Gunpowder State Park. And...
Well, yeah, that's gangland there, huh?
Honestly, I was more scared of white people than I ever was of black people because of living in the areas I lived in.
Yeah.
So
that's why it was a joke from the get-go. But, no, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I lived in Baltimore, too, and never had, you know, I had cars broken into all the time. Never had the house broken into, but I know people that did have their houses broken into. And, you know, I mean, it's not...
I mean, I'm not saying that as a homeowner you shouldn't own a weapon. That's not what I'm saying either. You know, and that's not the argument I'm trying to make. I just think that the arguments that both sides are making are so ridiculously over the top and are, you know, to the point of, really, that's the argument you're going to make? You know? I mean, it's just, every time I hear an argument, I mean, like everybody, like the thing of everybody should own a gun. It should be, like some places are actually talking about making it mandatory.
No, I think that's a mistake. I think that's more of a... that would be good for a propaganda exercise to deter crime.
Right.
Is by saying everybody has a gun, but not necessarily it being the truth.
Right.
You know, that would kind of deter the criminal element somewhat. But you know, no deterrence is 100% effective. You know, and that's what one of the things about owning a firearm is.
Yeah, look at nuclear deterrence in North Korea. I mean, it's obvious that, you know, not all deterrence works. People are still gonna try, but you know, it's I mean, it comes down to it's a constitutional right, and you know, what gets me is the over the top and you know. But then, you know, you get the people on the left that are like, okay, you can't even show a Pop-Tart in the shape of a gun without, you know, getting suspended. But then at the same time, you know, the people that are like, you're going to have to pry my gun out of my cold, dead hand before I allow you to do, you know, universal background checks across the board. I mean, to me, that's just a common sense.
Well, I agree.
It's just common sense. I mean, it just, you know.
Both sides cater to the extreme rhetoric. You know, that's what they do, and that's another thing that derives from the way our political system is completely dysfunctional right now. Because of that.
And what's funny is all these bastards, you know, get everybody all riled up on both sides and get people like us all pissed off and whatever. And you know them bastards get done arguing with each other and go out and have beers together at the end of the night.
Well, you know what's funny? The Gifford guy, the Gifford's husband,
yeah,
who's been like so vocal about assault weapons and everything, they should be banned completely and all this other stuff, was just bought an AR-15. You know.
They had to get them before they made them illegal.
Yeah, but just think about
Man,
that.
if I had the money, I'd go buy one right now. Just to get it before they make it illegal.
Well, the thing is that they've created such a market glut, right, or not glut, the opposite of glut, scarcity right now.
What if this whole thing like ends up just falling through? Like the assault weapons ban ends up falling through, and the whole thing was just a ploy to get the economy going.
I've thought about that.
Because that would be brilliant. I mean, think about this. Obama, as much as everybody wants to bash Obama and talk about him being a socialist and shit, the man continues wars. He continued Gitmo. He does drone strikes all over the world. He's obviously in with some of these military, in with the military-industrial complex. Mm-hmm. How much, but every time he gets elected, reelected, or even mentions the word gun sales skyrocket.
Right.
I mean, I'd like to see how much, Beretta, donated to his campaign. I mean, that'd be kind of interesting to see whether he got any gun money.
It'd probably be through a third-party like a contributor group, like the Freedom Institute or whatever. It's interesting that you the Freedom Institute. I think that's what it's called. Basically, it's owned by a company. It's basically kind of like not a lobbying group, but a venture capitalist firm. And they basically bought up a lot of media that is like pro-firearm. Like they bought the Sportsman's Channel, Guns and Ammo, things like that. And what's his name? George Soros owns this company indirectly.
Who's George Soros? For the people who don't know.
George Soros is this big-time money man who is very, very vocal in anti-rights, basically.
He's a mega left, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a mega left.
I mean, he's got nowhere near the money that the Koch brothers have or anything like that, but he's a major.
Well, he's a billionaire, I think. I mean, it's still money.
Yeah, he's got a lot of money, but it's like 1/4 of what the Koch brothers have or something.
Anyway, he basically bought up all these channels and media, and what's starting to happen is they're laying off a whole bunch of people in these medias, or reducing the capacity. They move, the Sportsman's Channel used to have this really beautiful studio in Minnesota on a river and everything. It was so beautiful and it's huge, it's modern, and now they're working out of a strip mall.
Really?
Yeah, and it's just, so you talk about backhanded tactics to move an agenda, that's right up there, and certain magazines, they're talking about, limiting circulation or just straight up canceling, just getting rid of them.
Decline anyway, so.
What's that? I
said Princeton decline anyway.
Well, that's true, but people still buy Guns and Ammo. I mean, that's a real popular magazine. That's probably one of the more popular ones. I mean, they don't only just have one magazine.
Yeah, but you know what? Even if he does that, there's going to be other, places that are going to step up and take that position. It's not like, by him buying that out, it's going to, it's going to stop everything.
He bought 75% of the market already. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's
But still, I mean, somebody will step in. They'll
maybe.
Maybe we'll get lucky and Al Jazeera buy it.
Yeah, right.
Everybody will have a shit fit.
I'm surprised there isn't more people throwing fucking hissy fits about them buying Current.
Well, I think it's one of those things that's being downplayed by the media because Al Gore is one of their little. If this were Dan Quayle or George Bush doing this,
Al Jazeera isn't the extremist channel. There are a lot they're actually fairly well respected over there.
CNN, but out of the Arab world or Muslim world.
But they're not even they're actually they're more like the BBC. They're actually well respected. They're not.
Yes, I feel they're more the BBC.
Yeah, I mean they're actually well respected and known for decent journalism.
They're modern.
There are other stations out of that region that have bought stations that Fox News owned. Stuff that are much more extreme than.
Didn't one of the big who was it? The guy that owned all the stuff over in Britain, and he owns a lot of stuff over in here, and there was a scandal with him. Actually, he's a part owner in Al Jazeera, or this other network they have over there.
Rupert Murdoch?
Yeah, he actually owns.
Yeah, he owns he owns a station that actually bashes on the United States all the time.
Yeah, and it's like really extreme stuff too. Not
Yeah.
like Al Jazeera is actually not a bad source of news in my opinion, but like
Yeah.
really extreme stuff, like having imams and clerics on there that talk about yes, we need to go and burn Israel to the ground, and then go on to the United States to do them next. You know, it's like wow.
They're just broadcasting what it is. It's just like if when our media would put like the Ku Klux Klan speaker up on the TV or the neo-Nazi.
Well, C-SPAN still does a lot of that with, they'll have extremists from both sides on. And some of the stuff that comes out of some of the people in their mouth is like, it's amazing that they, should ever even be on television.
Well,
But
it's funny, I was watching, as part of Black History Month, it was on Maryland Public Television. It was just like Black History of Baltimore, and how Baltimore was influential in, like the 60s and the Civil Rights Movement. Yep. And they were talking about... they showed a clip from a political speech by then presidential candidate George Wallace, I believe it was.
Yeah, I know Wallace.
Yeah, and he was at like a Klan meeting, and like the mayor was there and all this other stuff. It was like, wow. So it's like, it's all relative, what is mainstream and what's not. I think that station that Murdoch owns is like the Fox News of the Arab world. It's like all like, or Muslim world, I'm sorry. It's all, the crazy religious, it's the crazy religious news network, kind of like Fox News is over here. Like the ultra-conservative network.
it's Rotana, R-O-T-A-N-A.
Yeah. Which is different from Al Jazeera. And you notice...
And it's owned by a Saudi prince, and then 20% owned by Murdoch.
Right, and you'll notice that Fox News always bashes Al Jazeera, but never bashes that, Rotana. It's almost like they're using the news broadcast to push an agenda. Isn't that weird?
Rotana actually aired a movie that portrayed American soldiers as the bad guys who massacred Iraqi civilians and sold their organs to Jews.
Yeah.
I actually remember that story.
Yeah, I saw an advertisement for that. I forget what it was. Just called The Fight or something like that. I forget. It like centers around these freedom fighters over there that are basically they're being occupied, and then they have to deal with these American soldier devils doing all this horrible stuff. Yeah.
It's a pretty crazy scenario. I mean, so I want to jump on now that we beat the gun thing to a dead horse, pretty much.
Again.
Yeah, again. At least this time it wasn't us yelling at each other.
Yeah, well, we're getting better at it, I guess.
That's what happens when you have simple discourse and discuss things. Things may start out heated, but eventually you start to find middle ground.
Stupid fucking liberal.
Right?
Oh, sorry, my mic was on.
Well, let's talk about North Korea. Put up or shut up, little man.
I gave you a perfect transition to that earlier, and you didn't take it.
I know, because we were still talking about the gun thing.
I tried to break in and said, yeah, I want to talk about North Korea when you're done with the guns.
Yeah. But, yeah, so the North Korea. So, he's talking about bombing us. He's cut off the phone lines to South Korea. He has declared that, what is it? I forget what it was. It was like that the peace treaty was over.
Yeah, because they're still at war, technically.
Yeah.
There's never been a cessation of hostilities.
Right.
Agreement, or whatever.
I don't think he could reach the East Coast with what he has.
Probably not. I mean, the worst I could say is he may have like a terrorist cell in the country or something. Like some kind of covert strike force.
And now we got to go arrest all the Koreans.
Yeah, round them up, put them in the camps. No, honestly, Kim Jong, put up or shut up. But get out of the fucking kitchen. You smell bad.
Shit or get off the pot.
Yeah, because I've been listening to your shit for a year now, ever since Daddy died, and I'm tired of hearing that. I want to see what you can do.
The thing that I think he's actually going to do something, because you think about it, he's got to make a name for himself.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's pretty much walking in there on Daddy's coattails.
It's not like he made movies like Daddy did.
Right. So.
Well, I'm just curious, why the fuck was Dennis Rodman over there? I don't understand it.
I haven't figured that one out yet either.
I don't know. There's always some American that has to think a dictator's not a dictator.
And then the Google guy, too.
I mean, didn't Jesse Jackson go down and do like Hugo Chavez funeral or something?
There's
Yeah.
a couple different people.
And all the communists pretty much went down and cried about the communist dictator dying.
I'm kind of curious what's going to happen down there, too.
It's going to all fall into the Falkland situation that's developing.
Anything's going to become a part of that?
Probably, and then South America is going to go south for a while, like it did in the 80s. So.
We'll have drug lords take over.
Coffee's going to be more expensive. My Coke's going to be more expensive. Whatever. Huh?
So stop snorting this shit then.
Nah, I don't do Coke. Although, really, it does, it's great for getting rid of toothaches.
It always gave me a headache.
Yeah, I never really did anything for me, so I don't bother with it, just like everything else. But anyway, no, about North Korea, honestly, it's weird what's happening with China in this situation.
Back in the UN and us.
Well, yeah, China on one hand is like one of the people that voted for the sanctions, but on the other hand, they're saying we fully support North Korea and their sovereignty. It's like they're playing North Korea as a pawn, like the Soviet Union and the United States did in the Cold War with others, pawn states to basically cause something to happen.
That's also an easy way for us to fight each other without really fighting each other.
Yeah, it's surrogate combat.
Right.
So I mean, and it's tried and true. We did it pretty much for the entirety of the last century. We've been fighting surrogate warfare.
Right. Because that's what Korea was about, and
Vietnam, Grenada,
yeah.
The whole Cuban situation. Pretty much everything there.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. Oh, that's a pretty nifty idea. They have solar roadways.
I've seen that.
It's pretty nifty. I just came across them.
Yeah, I bet they're high maintenance.
I'm sure.
I saw that a couple years ago. They were talking about that. And I think it'd be great for certain areas. It doesn't necessarily have power.
Right.
But, I don't think it's very practical for real high usage highways because it's got to wear more than normal blacktop does. Because normal blacktop's inert.
I'm sure they probably have to bring out a Zamboni on it.
Yeah. And also, you gotta figure it's gonna be more expensive too. And you ever notice you're driving down an interstate and you see a whole bunch of lines on the road, like they're maybe an inch or two wide, and they're one after another. There's 10 or 20 of them. They're actually testing things for testing wear, how much it wears down with the traffic.
All right.
For additives and various formulations of asphalt and concrete and the paint they put on the roads.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a experimental science going on there, and I just don't see this solar roadway as being more durable than what we already have, unless of course there was something they thought about back in the 70s was actually making a metallic concrete that would wear more or wear less than an aggregate, like a stone aggregate roadway.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, there's been experiments, and everything, but maybe it's more expensive or whatever. Because metals are expensive almost by default, no matter what kind of metal it is. Either because it costs to extract it from the from the ore, or because the ore is rare. Like aluminum, like I think it's what 40% of the Earth's crust is aluminum, but because of the way that you have to get it from ore, it's so expensive because they heat it in magnetic induction, electrical induction ovens, the ore to extract the aluminum, and that's the only way they can do it, economically, and it's expensive. So hence aluminum is expensive. But it's one of the most common substances on the planet. And then we have like iron, like North America has almost depleted its iron reserves. Yeah. As far as what's in the soil, what's in the ground.
Right. So my question then becomes: Do we think he's going to do it? Do we think North Korea is going to actually push a button?
Probably. I think China's doing it so they can say to the UN, "Hey, we're the good guys. We are the leaders of the new century. Let us send our troops in and occupy North Korea to bring peace." Just like the United States did previously during the whole of the last century. That's my theory.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean the Chinese could send UN troops in too. Chinese UN troops, just like we have UN troops.
Right.
Just like UN troops are in the United States right now.
Well, as long as they feed the people, they might be better off than they are under Korean rule.
True. I mean, but Korea does have resources. China wants. I mean, I think I don't know that they have a hell of a lot of resources, but I think they ought to tap into the South Korean gamer market, because apparently South Korea, like a scout from StarCraft is like on their currency or something. Like a picture of a scout from StarCraft.
Wow.
Well, people have careers over in North Korea or South Korea with gaming. They're like dedicated. It's amazing. Anyway.
They had lots of money for it, though.
But yeah, they have oil reserves in South Korea too, I think.
No wonder we're there.
I think it's adjacent to like the South China Sea. That's why we're there, because it's a strategic thing, which is partly what China and Japan are fighting over right now. If I have the geography correct.
So now let's move on to the Air Force.
There's nothing to see here. Move along.
This government was supposed to be a transparent government, and then as soon as Rand Paul decided to talk for 12 hours, all of a sudden it disappeared.
It happened way before that.
Did it?
Obama in 2008, after he got elected, vowed that transparency would be his #1 issue. That he wants to address. Government transparency. Yet he's one of the least transparent government administrations that's ever been. He's prosecuted more whistleblowers. He's put more controls. He created the ability to shut down the internet at his whim, basically, or at the whim of the office of the president. Now he's got. We're okay with bombing Americans, pretty much.
Well, the Attorney General said that wasn't what the case was.
Sure. That's exactly what the memo says, though. And it can be interpreted that way by the public, then it certainly can be interpreted that way by those who make the decisions in the executive administration, the executive branch.
Well, what I saw from Eric Holder was that the president does not have the power. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I mean, to me, if the Attorney General is saying that he doesn't have that power, does that mean that he's just in the pocket of Obama and he's just putting it out to set everybody up, or are there people actually in the government other than Rand Paul that may stand up? Because I mean, do we really think Rand Paul is even really legitimately standing up, or is it just?
Well, let me give you an example. one of the public or Obama administration press, like the press secretary or whatever, a former one, I believe, was basically when people started asking him about drone programs, he was actually under orders to say it didn't exist. Yet it's open public knowledge that it does exist. You know,
Right.
like domestic drone programs. And he was ordered to lie, basically, to the public. And that's what government does nowadays. They default to lying and misinformation. Well, now, I can't trust anything that comes out of Eric Holder's mouth. He said we didn't give any guns to the Mexican drug cartels, yet there's ample proof that we did. You know, I mean, and then he backpedaled on and said, "Oh yeah, we did." I was, and then he said, "Oh, well, I didn't know anything about it." Yet then documents come out that, you know, are specifically addressed to him, in which he's actually sending replies that, yes, go ahead, this program is approved. You know, so I can't trust anybody over there anymore. It's like they're just like trying to soothe a child, saying, "Oh no, we can't do that. Shh, quick, hit the button. Shh, we can't do that." You know.
Okay, so speaking of drones and our government, did you hear about what happened in New York with a drone?
Well, it's happened all over. What you mean the near miss?
Yeah.
Spotting over an airfield. Yeah, and you know what's funny?
What's up?
Like if a police helicopter is in pursuit of somebody, and they enter airspace, which is like controlled airspace, they can actually be denied because of traffic in that vicinity to pursue them. Yet we have a drone inside one of the most busiest air traffic control air spaces in the world, just flying around willy-nilly, and nobody knew it was there.
Well, what I thought was interesting about it was the two different descriptions that I saw of it.
Oh, yeah?
Because the news portrayed it as one of, like, the Predator drones.
Well, that's the default graphic they throw up for anything when they say drones.
But the pilot described it as pretty much a black box with 4 propellers.
Okay.
So, I mean, the thing is that there's a big difference there. And the question is, if nobody's admitted to flying it there. You know, so
Right.
the CIA or the FBI or whoever, I mean, why would they be flying it in airspace like that? First off is my question.
Well, they do that kind of thing all the time, though.
Why?
And they because even by mistake, it's happened. That's one of the reasons why the FAA was kind of iffy about issuing drone permits, because in the past they've been over airspace and they've been detected in airspace, like where they were testing them and whatnot.
Okay.
Like, certain local governments were purchasing them and flying around cities. They just happened to be within the airspace control zone, and they neglected to inform air traffic control that there was a drone operating in the area. So, I mean, this isn't really a new thing,
Right.
but it's certainly, this is one of the things that people were trying to, people in the know were saying, well, hold on a minute, we gotta watch this kind of activity because, bad things can happen.
What bad things?
Oh, like an airliner colliding with a drone.
It hasn't happened yet, so why should we worry about it?
Yeah, right.
We'll wait until it happens, and then we'll ban them all.
Well, no, they won't ban them. They'll just make it so that, no truth comes out about them anymore, and they'll cover it up. Like they did with Newtown.
You think there's a cover-up on Newtown, huh?
Well, something smells fishy when everybody involved is dead, and they refuse to release any of the police reports or findings or anything like that, when they said they were going to do so a month ago, or actually 3 months ago. That just smells fishy to me.
Maybe they're just still investigating.
Investigating what?
I don't know.
Well, if
I'm
the truth, which is what everybody's acting upon, the truth, quote unquote, of a singular gunman with this type of gun, blah blah blah. If that's the truth, and then the investigation has nowhere to go. Okay, but if there's something else going on, and saying, oh yeah, there was more than one person, blah blah blah. Oh, he wasn't using that. But thanks for all the laws. That is a political manipulation of the law enforcement process, which needs to be stopped.
The governmental process.
Yeah, it centered on law enforcement.
Just like 9/11. Anyway, that's going to be the end of the show. I am Mike. I am saying goodnight. And that's it for Congress of the Working Class. See ya.
See ya.
Later.
Listen up, man, I'll tell you who I am. Just another stupid American. You don't want to listen, you don't want to understand. So finish up a drink and go home. Listen up, man, I'll tell you who I am. Just another